Hello, everyone. Welcome back to DJ and the Zooms. I am Jay, and the Chinese weekend was certainly an event. Now, I've been so good this weekend. I actually took quite a few notes, as you can see, and let's go over them together, shall we? First thing that I wrote was Ferrari really have found something special for the starts. And the notes are in chronological order of the weekend. Mind you, they're in chronological order of what I was able to watch over the weekend. Because, listen, I will watch as late as 1 a.m. and as early as 5 a.m. Between 1 and 5, I'm sleeping, my guys. That is not going to change, especially now that I have a real grown-up job and responsibilities. So I did not watch the sprint and I did not watch FP1. But what I was able to see, fortunately, I was able to watch the recap of the sprint. And I think that's when I wrote that down. But it's still accurate after the weekend. And to be honest, I haven't done a lot of research and I haven't been too dialed into what's going on technically for everyone. But I have seen that apparently pretty much all other teams are fighting for something to change with the starts. And Ferrari want it to stay as it is. Obviously, because they're a step above everyone else in that regard. It really looks like they're sort of like on a spring, and when the race starts, or the sprint or whatever, the session starts, they're able to launch beyond every other team right away. And that's quite impressive. You know, I've been saying that I'm going to stop putting any hope into Ferrari because they've disappointed me so much, and I'd rather have them surprise me positively than be disappointed again. And that is a pleasant surprise. Seeing Charles and Lewis, because let's be honest, no, I think that's something that we'll come back on next week. We'll discuss how I feel and why I love Formula One as much as I do next weekend. I was thinking before I pressed record today, I thought I had skipped the second part of my discussion with Denise because I couldn't see it on my Instagram posts. But maybe I forgot to post it because I was at my parents' during the holidays. But it turns out the episode is online, both on YouTube and on Spotify. So if you want to listen to it, go listen to it because we had a lot of fun. But then that means, what am I going to do? Now that next weekend is race free. And I think this is what we're going to do. We're going to sit down, just you and I, and discuss why. Because I've had all those discussions with my friends about why they love Formula One, and I never took the time to really tell you about me. And after all, this is my podcast. I should be the main character. Anyway, so this is what we've been seeing from Ferrari, and it was really nice seeing Charles and Lewis having a real fighting chance for once. My brain is not braining today. I have a massive headache, so I guess the pronunciations are going to be all over the place, and it is what it is. As long as it's still understandable, I'm going to keep it that way because, man, I'm tired. Next note that I wrote, and this is going to be funny for those of you who have watched the weekend. I wrote, maybe we should accept that we have entered the George domination era. Well, George won in Australia. He won the sprint. He's a great driver, and I really admire his work and dedication. I think he's an admirable person. And yeah, maybe it is the George domination era, or maybe it's just Mercedes being better prepared than everyone else. But put a pin in this. The next thing that I wrote is this, and I think I'm going to need to explain it, so don't worry. There's something kind of freeing about knowing that whatever my boy does, he mechanically cannot beat the Mercedes and can't rival the Ferrari starts. I can just be proud of him still being in the fight, even if he ends up behind them. He's right behind them. That's not the part that I thought I would need to explain. I think this is pretty straightforward. There's a lot less pressure when you're not really fighting at the front. And you know that you can't be because your car won't. I remember when I started watching Formula One and I started supporting McLaren, they were at the very back of the grid. One of the people I knew who watched Formula One heard me mention it, and understanding that I had recently gotten into it, asked me who I supported. And when I said Lando, he looked at me with eyes like saucers. And he said, but McLaren are nowhere. And I think maybe that's why I was able to get into Formula One the way I did, because I didn't have the pressure when I first started watching and when I first started supporting my team. I didn't have the pressure of the front, of fighting for podiums and wins. And you can just enjoy the racing in those situations. And now I can just enjoy the racing again. Whereas last year, it was always high stakes. Everything was a risk. Now, everything's an opportunity. That's a lot of fun. This we shall put a pin in as well. But I think the next note is the one that needs explaining. It's interesting to put into perspective the dominant team dynamics. The fact that when Red Bull were at the front, Max was clearly the one that dominated. When McLaren had the best car, everyone was so eager to say that Oscar was the best, yet Lando's world champion. But now that they're behind again, so far, Lando's been in front. And with Mercedes having a better car at the moment, George leads, with Kimi not far behind. That's where, because you hear everywhere, Formula One isn't it's not a real sport because they're sitting down in a car, or it's not a real sport, it's an engineering competition, which I think is very true, but not in a way that these people aren't high performance athletes. Kiki Ra. Right? They're at the top of their game. And when you see them, as much as fighting at the front is a high stress situation, it's in those moments when the car is clearly better than the other cars, it's the moments when you can see how much influence the driver himself and their style and their willingness to take risks is going to play and matter into what their end result is going to be. Maybe also, I don't know, talent. I don't like really using the word talent because I don't think I'm an actor. And in acting, we always say it's 5% talent, 95% hard work. And I think that's the case also for every other discipline. But I'm also reluctant to say that Checo Perez or all the drivers that were booted out of Red Bull didn't put in the hard work. Maybe it's more a question of personality and which of the two is the biggest daredevil. I'm thinking it through as I'm talking to you, so this isn't my final say on this matter, but this is where I've just landed. Maybe it's about which one of the two is the biggest daredevil. I think that makes sense. Well, I'm just still bitter about the fact that people refused, and some still refuse today, to admit that Lando is a great driver and that he deserves the world championship that he got. Because at the end of the day, if he didn't, he wouldn't have it. By the way, one of the other notes that I took down is, it's not the next one, but I think now is the time to talk about it. The George hate. And I wrote down, y'all are really forcibly turning me into a George girly, and I'm mad about it. Listen, love George, admire him, love him. I think he's so endlessly dedicated to this sport. This is his entire life. More than some, to be honest. And he's worked for it his entire life, just like they all do. But I'm thinking about the time that he spent at Williams and recent comments that have been made by Claire Williams, in which she said, I think it was in an interview or a podcast, she said that he's a great person, lovely to be around, and I'm so not surprised about that. I think George, beyond being a great athlete who's worked so hard for so long to get to where he is now, and has dedicated so much of his life, his energy, his time, his mind to this one goal, beyond all that, including it, but beyond it, I think he's a great role model. And that matters to me. Even though I also think that we shouldn't put too much expectations on those drivers, because at the end of the day, they are, most of them, pretty much all of them, not exactly all of them, but extremely rich, privileged white boys. And those are the worst people on earth. I'm sorry, they are. And they are so, it's so difficult to see beyond one's privilege. As a very white person who grew up with a roof over my head and parents who loved me, I know that. I've been confronted to my privilege quite a few times in my life, and now I try to look beyond it, but it's not easy. And if you've never been made to see it and think about it, you have absolutely no reason to think about it. So we shouldn't expect these boys, who no one is asking to think about it, to think about it. But that said, I think George is a good person, and I'm happy to see him thrive. And the fact that as soon, really, as soon as he started doing good, people just, oh, Lando's not on the front row anymore? Well, we're gonna hate on this guy now. Listen, it's time to care about the sport, you guys. Put your energy into love rather than hate, okay? Flower power. And also, I don't think my friend who sent me this card knew much about the political implications of it, but I do. Anyway, next note is Williams with a sad face. And I wrote, Alex being so vocally disappointed after being out in Q1 for the race. It broke my heart. And every time Williams struggles, it breaks my heart. They deserve to be doing better than they are at the moment. And I'm sure it will happen. I'm sure it's just a matter of time. Because they're doing everything. I think they're doing everything right. But I don't know what's going on behind closed doors, obviously. So, no, that's something that we discussed. I don't remember who it was with. But the fact that that's also something that drew me to McLaren and to Lando in particular. The clear signs that something is going on behind closed doors which we're not privy to, but is going to matter in the long run. I had this feeling with McLaren 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. Yeah. And I have this feeling now with Williams. However, back when I had this feeling for McLaren 3 years ago, McLaren already had a lot more money than Williams does at the moment. So it's obviously going to take longer for Williams. But I think they have the right spirit. I think they're doing the right thing. And I think they're going to get there. Maybe that's wishful thinking. But still. Next note. Next note is Kimi on pole. Youngest pole sitter in history, taking the record from Seb Vettel in 2008. Foreshadowing, you guys? Well, as soon as I saw that Kimi was on pole, I took a screenshot of the Instagram post and sent it to my mom, because Kimi's her favorite, and she was very happy to see it. Listen, look, I sent the picture to my mom. I don't think I sent the picture. I told her that Kimi was on pole, and I told her that he was the youngest pole sitter since Vettel. No, the youngest pole sitter in the history of the sport. And she said, I told you he's incredible. I said, I know he's your favorite. That's why I'm telling you. And her response was the little he emoji with the hearts around the face. So, yeah, I mean, everyone loves Kimi, don't we? The commentator for the French broadcast, for the Francophone broadcast, but the Belgian broadcast, who's on F1 TV, never stops saying how much he loves them. Because apparently Kimi's just adorable in the paddock. He'll stop to say hello, shake someone's hand, and have like a conversation, and you can see it. He's like, because he's not jaded, I guess. Which makes sense, he's a baby. About that, me saying that he's a baby. Remember, I've been saying it since last year, and I kept saying it, even though I admitted at the end of the year, last year, at the end of the season, I admitted that I'd been wrong, that he didn't crumble under pressure, and that he did really well. And I said, I think it has to do with the fact that Mercedes nurture their drivers and cultivate this sense of family, love, respect, support within the team, I think. And we saw that today, because let's get into my notes for the race. Obviously, notes for the race. Both McLarens, Alex Albon and Gabi Bortoleto, did not start. I hesitated to start this episode with a red nose to signify how much of a clown I feel like I am at the moment for sporting McLaren, but I do not own a red nose, and I didn't feel like drawing it on with makeup, because then I knew I'd have a job taking it off to record the rest of the podcast, and I got lazy. Listen, it's Sunday evening, and I've got a headache, okay? Be cool. Well, listen, I guess It's growing pains, isn't it? With the new regulations, with being, in the case of McLaren and Williams, customer teams, comes a necessary time to understand and figure out everything about the car. And it's only the second race of the year. It's gonna get better. The good thing about struggling so much now is that the only way is up. Right? So it can only get better from now. So take that, haters. And also my disappointment of this morning. Oh, the pictures of Lando. He looked so disappointed. Baby. Anyway, next note. Ferrari ballet. Oh yeah. And the following note was, man, if they managed to take each other out. Because we saw Charles and Lewis just taking over each other for the second half of the Grand Prix. I'm in front. No, 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 I'm in front. And every time they were so close. Lewis said it himself in the post-race interview before the podium. He said they touched at one point, but it was nothing much, so it wasn't visible. But man, it could have gone much worse. And they were so close to the front. If they had taken each other out at that point, it would have been violence. Anyway, yeah, but it was fun. It was fun to watch. And my friend was watching with me. She actually stayed, she stayed over for the night so that we could be together to watch the Grand Prix, and McLaren didn't even race. Okay? Anyway, we were sitting next to each other watching the Grand Prix, and she goes, they're going to fight it out when they get out of the car. They're going to be so mad at each other. And I said, or they're going to giggle about it, because at the end of the day, this is what they live for. All 22 of them. Racing. It's their passion. It's their love. It's what they do. And I was like, it's every time I see a fight like this, all I can think is they must be having so much fun. And it turns out, Charles said it on the radio. He said he had fun, and it's obvious, and that's so great, right? Seeing them have fun. That's what we want at the end of the day, isn't it? So that was cool. Next note is Alonso finally gives up after 35 laps. That's better than 21. Also, I guess he got good data, and they're going to use it to work and get better, hopefully. When I said that the only way is up, maybe I should have said that about Aston Martin. Guys, Andy, Linus, the only way is up for your team. But it's still sort of both sad and funny to watch. And at the end, Kimi won. And what I wanted to come back to was the fact that Toto on the radio said, this is for all the people who criticized me for signing Kimi when he was so young, who didn't believe in him, who thought he should have been first in a smaller team and get used to Formula One in a smaller team before getting to Mercedes. I felt very attacked, Toto, because I've never disrespected you like that. Yes, I did say that I thought Kimi was too young, but I said it with all the love in the world. Okay? So please try not to point at me in your radio messages. But anyway, he was right. Obviously, they knew, Mercedes knew they had messed up by not signing Max Verstappen back when he was 17, 18, 19. And they didn't want to risk making the same mistakes with Kimi, and they were right. Kimi is obviously a force of nature, but he's in a way, he's just like the rest of them. He lives for racing. He loves it. That's his life. That's his heart. That's what drives him. And also, he definitely has talent. He's definitely as much, if not more, of a daredevil than the rest of them. And he was lucky enough to be signed by the team that supported him, because he did struggle at one point last year. Was it in Imola or Monza, where he invited all of his classmates and was distracted in the race and didn't do as well as he would have wanted. He did make a few mistakes here and there, but Mercedes helped him through it, which probably isn't something that old school Red Bull would have done, because we love Laurent Mekies in this house, and definitely not something that Alpine would do. I'm not saying his name today, so we're not talking about Alpine. When it was announced that the McLarens would not start and would not participate in the race, I did hesitate to go back to sleep. But I'm not someone who sleeps past 8 a.m. anyway, so I wouldn't have. And when Kimi won, I did shed a few tears, because he was, listen, I have a soft heart, and I've had a tough few days recently, a tough week, and even a little before that. So I'm pretty tired at the moment. And I guess seeing the pure joy in Lewis, in Kimi, in Charles being happy to race his teammate, it warmed my heart, and I needed it. So thank you, Formula One. With those words, thank you for listening until the end. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and rate this podcast wherever you listen to it. I love you. Bye.